Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to today's Water Cooler Chat, where we talk about all things Livepeer. There's delegating, orchestrating, transcoding, developing, or AI inference. We're here to ask questions and get answers. So we have a number of topics ahead of us, including AI models, feedback on community RPC nodes and load balancers, Liquidity SPE, and quality improvements. But first, I'd like to quickly jump off and start with a Q&A session with Eugene, who has brought forward a project that is building on Livepeer called Fanteasy, and a couple of the other devs with him. So, Eugene, do you want to start us off with a little background of who you are and how you got involved with Livepeer? Because I know it sounds like, you were buying LPT tokens on Poloniex back in 2018, so you're definitely an OG. Tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into Livepeer, and then what your project is.
Yeah. I've been building for a while now. Was at Citadel for about 6 years in the hedge fund space. Then I basically transitioned over to crypto in 2018. So as a security engineer at Backed, BlockFi, a bunch of other crypto startups. Right now I'm head of custody at Avalanche or Avalabs. So I do serious stuff usually in crypto, custody related things, multi-party computation protocols, all this stuff. This is more of a passion project for me, completely not in my nature, but I decided to just go ahead and do it. I found out about Livepeer in 2018. I was really inspired by this use case. 80% of traffic being video and everything like requiring transcoding. So I think it's like what I would call useful compute, and pretty excited about AI use cases as well. But even transcoding for us is enough. So about a year ago, I started building this in the adult space. There's like huge revenue potential. If you go on Chatterbait, stripchat.com, you're gonna see, if you go actually to stripchat.com right now, you're gonna see about 8,000 creators on the platform, and the top creators have over 1,000 viewers. So at any moment you have probably like 100,000 simultaneous streams on the top platforms. And actually, my brother in-law works at Chatterbait, and he's spilled some beans on sort of the revenue. They generate about $1 million every day in revenue. So it's one of the most successful use cases, even in the adult space. Like Pornhub, for example, doesn't generate that much revenue. It's a little trickier, right? But Cam2Cam, even like the absolute worst platform you can think of, they have 300, 400 creators live streaming pretty much 24/7. So I kind of started thinking this way, doing a little bit more research. And one of the biggest problems is for every dollar you make, you only get to keep between 15 cents to 20 cents. And this is where, for me, Livepeer is perfect, because you get to save 90% of transcoding fees. And we're also using storage for, saving the cost of basically on storage as well, 80%. So the way we kind of frame this is Web3 enabled and Web2 embraced. So we still have that Web2 interface. It's completely optional whether you want to be paid in crypto or connect your Web3 wallet to the platform. So we don't want to burden any users of the platform to be Web3, right? So we want to kind of create more of a pool effect. Like if you do connect your wallet, there is all of these incentives, which will include TZ token that we're going to be launching later this year as well. So that's kind of the background. I'll stop right here for the questions.
Excellent. That's a really good introduction into what Fanteasy is. How long have you been working on Fanteasy? What stage are you in for its development?
So I started a year ago. The first 6 months was mostly ideation, and then I kind of started with branding exercise, choosing a good name for it, securing .com domain, getting all of the design assets. Like I have like the whole branding package with social media assets. We have 400 pages of Figma designs. I used one of the best companies in design. They're called Akeo. They're out of Serbia. So we build a clickable prototype. So my hope was that a clickable prototype would be enough for us to raise money, but then bear market, and so I decided to take it to the next stage, and we started building the actual web app October of last year, and now we have Pietro, backend engineer. He's working on this full time. Joao is a front-end engineer, so we have like a legit team behind this. Yep.
Okay, so I want to start off with some big, we can get into the specifics. I want to get into like, what kind of infrastructure you need and stuff. But I just want to start off kind of with the use case of Fanteasy. So, what makes it unique? What is kind of you mentioned the 90% cost savings from Livepeer. Is the idea that you're going to push that through to the creators, and so therefore they're going to get more revenue for their content, and that's what's going to bring people over? Or is there something else unique to do with crypto? Like what is the unique take on Fanteasy?
Well, you pretty much nailed it. Like again, the infrastructure cost, only keeping 20 cents for each dollar. That's the biggest problem. There's not a lot of competition in the space because everyone is kind of stays away from investing into this space, right? So I kind of see a huge opportunity in this as well. So like I've talked to a bunch of VCs, and they basically laugh in my face when I start saying that I'm building a DAO platform. So to me, I'm like, good, the less VCs, the less competition, the better, because I know I can build a quality product that will really stand out. And if we were to charge creators, 30%, 40% instead of 80%, everybody will come to us. Now, as far as I think that in itself is enough, building quality product and passing the savings to the creators and users of the platform. But we also have like V2, V3 type of kind of features on the roadmap. Like potentially we could have an NFT platform. I know Livepeer you can do video NFTs as well, Livepeer. Now, as far as like AI use cases, like I did include it on the roadmap, because censorship resistance, is a big thing. Obviously, using decentralized technology, and for adult space, it's perfect, even like AI use cases. But right now, it's more for like buzzwords, right? I don't have like an actual plan when it comes to AI and adult industry. It's basically like for now just chem to chem and making it very efficient. Yep.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that's a great use case. I think I was watching one of my favorite streamers, and I got to ask him, what would make you switch? What would make you switch platforms? Like really, like think about this. And he said there's only two reasons to switch. One is more viewership, right? So more exposure. Two is more money. And he was pretty frank about it. He's like, I either get more money, more people watching. And
Oh,
and I thought, yeah, like these platforms take a large portion of their revenue. So if they could move to a platform and keep more of the revenue their patrons are giving them, then they're more likely to switch to a platform. So I really like that use case. As for the platform itself, is it a 1-to-1 cam, or is it a one-to-many cam?
It's one to many. So like you can basically be the creator on the platform where you broadcast yourself, and you can have 1,000 viewers, and then in a public channel, and then someone might request a private or an exclusive session with you where they will pay by the minute. And that's essentially how all of these platforms work. The cost will range from 50 cents a minute to some might charge like $10 a minute, for example. And then within private session, you can also do cam to cam. And all of that functionality is already working on on our dev playground. And I think a few of you already tried it. I think Ben, it was you, right? So it's already working.
Yeah, a few of us tried it, and I think we all liked what we saw. Just the fact that it worked when you click play,
Thank you. One thing I forgot to say about unique in an adult space, it's very, very competitive. There is a lot of creators and not enough platforms, and they would rather go to the new platform than compete with thousands of creators on like top platforms. It takes a long time to build a following. So it's from like a marketing perspective, it would be actually, I think it would be fairly easy to gain a lot of creators on our platforms because of this.
Yeah, definitely. How much industry experience? I mean, it's a bit of an odd question. How much industry experience do you have with it sounds like people that run Chatterbait and different type of services. So it sounds like you have some pretty good knowledge that is likely not publicly available on kind of the economics of these things and what makes them successful. So do you feel like you have a competitive advantage there?
Yeah, definitely. No, I don't want to. Obviously, my brother-in-law works at Chatterbait. I don't want to necessarily say too much about how much I know, because yeah. But I've been, it's been a year already me building this platform. I'm thinking about this and building relationships. And for example, I've connected with the former employee of OnlyFans. Her name is Lani. And if we are able to kind of raise enough money, she was responsible for about $30 million of revenue on OnlyFans. And we've had multiple conversations where she kind of told me the ins and outs of this industry, what it takes to be successful, and how to do marketing and all of these things. I've mostly been a technologist myself, just kind of building things. So I'm not necessarily, and I've never been focusing on adult space before, but I do have master's degree in telecommunications. So, I would say, like, from a technology standpoint, I can deeply talk about this.
Very good.
So this is what I would say.
We got a couple of questions in chat. One, I think we already answered this. Is the public? This is more specifics about the front end. Is the public cam to cam, is it viewable to the public? So one guy requests private interaction. You should say one person requires a public interaction to see what's ongoing, exclusive, not viewable to the public. Yeah, I think it's you can pay for per privatized kind of thing. I'd like to, and then someone says, my friend is asking for a link. So if you have a link to the, there you go, you've already got it.
Yeah, that's in the proposal as well. I mean, in a pre-proposal on Livepeer forum. So all the links are there.
Right. I'd like to now, let's dig a little deeper now. Let's go into the infrastructure and how Livepeer fits into all this. So, the adult industry, I think from my understanding, the adult industry does have issues with infrastructure. There are certain platforms that won't maybe allow adult content to be run through their servers. They don't really support that kind of type of industry. I've heard that there's entirely different infrastructure networks for the adult industry. So let's. And I don't know if this is true or not, but this is what I've been told. So as most people know, in video you have 3 kind of sections to deal with video. You have the transcoding, you have the delivery, and then you have the storage. So what is your plan with dealing with these 3 items? I know Livepeer does transcoding. Are you using Livepeer Studio for all of these kind of items, or are you just going to be using Livepeer for the transcoding portion and content delivery with a different network? Like what does the stack look like?
Yeah, so if you look into Chaturbate, they use basically a third-party service. I don't remember the name, but it's a lot more expensive than Livepeer, obviously. So it's completely outsourced. So they don't have their own technology for this. As far as I think it's like maybe $7 per 1,000 minutes, but if you go to HD, it's much more than that. So we've been using Livepeer Studio for now. For now, it's good enough because we are kind of working through the demo and the integration. But I think you have like a standalone server. I forgot what it's called.
Catalyst.
Yeah. So definitely, that's what I'm going to be looking at in a few months from now, because this will give us this additional savings. Because I think, what are you getting now? Like 50% savings with Livepeer Studio. So we want to get to bigger discount, basically, on that part. As far as like CDN, yeah, you have to use like Chaturbate. They do use StripChat. They all use CDNs. But what's really cool about Livepeer is that you don't even have to use CDNs. I think up to 50,000 streams. I was talking to what's his name, Suhail,
Mm-hmm.
and he was we had back and forth on this. So but then if you do get more than 50,000 streams, that's when you do require a CDN. So there's this additional savings on CDN as well, right? But is that true? Would you say this is true?
Well, I guess that might be true. Someone else can jump in here too. I think that might be true with Studio, but for the Livepeer network specifically, we only hand back just the original stream. We don't have an inbuilt CDN network or even a real robust way of delivering the network to your end user. So you could look at things like, I think Media Network has like they're another protocol that has integrated with Livepeer, and they're a peer-to-peer CDN. So basically what happens is you push the ingest into Livepeer. It comes out to an endpoint on Media Network, and then Media Network, they're like experts in CDN CDNs, and they're building with like a DCDN, so like a decentralized content delivery network, where there's like 10 nodes that they have, and then what happens is, so they stream the first 10 versions of the stream, and everyone else that picks it up, if you have good enough internet, it'll restream it to the next peer, and then they'll restream it to the next peer. And so I guess there's like a 90% cost savings with them, because you're not handing it off to each individual yourself. But there's someone had mentioned that peer-to-peer streaming has its upsides and downsides as well. So, but yeah, Media Network is an option that works with Livepeer, for instance.
Cool.
So that's another one. I think is John in here? John was working with Swarm to provide. Do you use Swarm as a CDN network, as well as storage? So that was the thing he's working on. So it sounds like like Livepeer can do the transcoding at, even we could do it at probably like a 90% cost savings from Livepeer Studio. Like the network is very inexpensive. Livepeer Studio, they do mark it up. So I mean, they have a whole sales team and an infrastructure and a corporation in New York. So they've got more overhead than just coming directly to the network. But when you come directly to the network, I believe you still have the CDN and storage, issue that you have to deal with. So, but it sounds like you're interested in using the network directly. Is that correct?
Well, it all depends. Like if I get substantial savings from using Livepeer Studio and I get additional things like CDN and I get support, I would rather use Livepeer Studio. I would use whatever makes more sense. Like would 50, but you're saying I could get 90% savings even with Livepeer Studio? Because my impression was that I have to use the network directly to get 90%.
I don't know what savings. I think Livepeer Studio is cheaper than something like AWS. But the Livepeer network, if you were to run a Catalyst node and spin up your own stuff, I believe you're looking at like, I mean, we're charging. I don't know what, if I'm charging 70 wave per pixel, which comes down to like, I don't know, 20 cents an hour or something like that. It's pretty inexpensive. Maybe Mike or someone else wants from the Livepeer Cloud team. You wanna talk about your product and how you could integrate with them?
No, I don't think it would work. This really, the cloud one is a kick the tires type thing. Get people enabled and started, but it wouldn't be. We're not in a position today to offer like enterprise support or large scale streaming platforms. It's really for smaller streamers right now as we start to build it up more.
Definitely. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I would. Yeah. You're going down the right path by using Livepeer Studio. You're going to get a lot of support from them, and it's going to be more out of the box. It's going to be, you can hand off all the back end to them while you deal with the business stuff on the front, right? And deal with those big items. And
yeah,
then,
that's the idea.
Yeah. So that's cool. And then, so I know that I believe Studio uses AWS for their CDN network and their storage. So that's how they operate. So, yeah. So if you go with, so you're planning to go with Studio off the front just to get started, and they offer a whole bunch of free stuff too to get you onboarded.
Yeah, it's gonna. Even if it's like 50% savings, we'll start out with Studio. My understanding is that if we deploy our own Catalyst node, the interface would still be the same, right? So the integration work with Livepeer Studio is not going to go wasted, right? It's all the same SDK, as far as I understand.
It should be very close. It's basically, Catalyst is Livepeer Studio in a box, so that you run yourself. But I just wanted to quickly touch on. I couldn't speak before for some reason. When you're talking about cost savings, the transcoding is somewhere where you can really save a lot of money. It really, the delivery is where Livepeer doesn't have a solution in the protocol itself. And when you use Studio, they're using a third party for the CDN portion of it. So so again, you're going to get the cost saving on the transcoding, but for the delivery portion of it, the CDN part, that's where something like a media network that was brought up before could really lower your costs. Bandwidth. There's when you're sending out a lot of bandwidth, there's not a lot of ways around that cost.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look into the media network for this then.
I invited John up here. John, were you using Swarm to act as a CDN?
Yeah, that was the goal. There's just a lot that needs to be implemented. You really kind of have to have some type of client to pull the segments back off the Swarm network because they're not really stored with file names. So that was sort of the challenge that we ran into with testing that. But that's a sort of a larger project that's on the shelf right now. But that would be really great to see that, be something we could leverage in the future. But yeah, media network, and there's a lot of other good solutions. I think Catalyst Uploader, if you use the S3 endpoint with, if you could get a Catalyst node going, you could record using the S3 functionality, and there's a lot of providers that that have that ability to play that off of a, or like when you upload files to the CDN, you can play them back right off the HTTP edge, and that might provide a turnkey solution. But I haven't really tested it in the context of Catalyst. I just know it has S3 capability, and I think it does store the segments. That might be something to explore as well.
Do you know what the latency would be like using something like an S3 bucket to for live video? I'm assuming. Well, I'm assuming that you need low latency. This is real time chat, right?
That's a good question, Eugene. What type of performance requirements are required for this type of application? Are you allowed? Could you allow for a 15-second delay between the the streamer and the viewer, or are we looking for milliseconds?
No, this is this is milliseconds. This is real time, right? So this is actually one of the issues that we were discussing with the team today. Is when we did the cam to cam session, we had like a 15 seconds delay, and that was a little bit annoying because I was expecting that to be like near instantaneous, because this is like essentially the interactive experience, right? I think if you're just broadcasting yourself, you could have more delay, but once you start doing cam to cam session, that's like a real time interaction, right, between the user and the host. So it needs to be real time.
When you say cam to cam, I'm assuming that the viewer doesn't have their cam on too, correct?
No, they do. They do. It's an optional thing. So you can join a private session and you can just say what you want in the chat. But you can also optionally enable your own camera, and that's where you're doing cam to cam session, right?
So if you're doing cam to cam, though, you wouldn't need transcoding. You would just use WebRTC, wouldn't you?
Well, no, I mean, we are still doing it through Livepeer transcoding. I don't know if WebRTC would be reliable enough.
Well, Livepeer Studio offers WebRTC, so it should be near instant. You just have to switch to their WebRTC like protocol rather than the RTMP protocol. Is that correct?
We have some problem right now with the cam to cam, and it's how long it takes to start for the user to start kind of broadcasting themselves. I was actually going to ask like who I can talk to about this, maybe get on the call or try to figure this out. And this is like one of the main goals. I know, we're applying for a direct grant, but I think the main thing is like connecting with everyone who is has expertise in this field and kind of leveraging their knowledge. That's the main thing.
So let me get this straight. The one to many portion is where it's like you have it's like Chatterbait, where there's a chat area. You can have 1,000 viewers. They're all watching one broadcaster, and if there was a 5-second delay, it probably wouldn't matter much because it's only interactive through chat and the individual. So it probably wouldn't be as big of an issue, right? What you're saying is, if people wanted to do a private session, it would be 1-to-1, where you would want like instant, real time, like connectivity between the two.
Yeah, exactly. Let me Pietro wants to speak on this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, everyone.
Tell us a little bit about what you're thinking.
Yeah, so the thing about the delay that we are encountering happens when we instantiate the player and the broadcast component from the SDK at the same time. So let's say I'm a creator and I'm doing a live stream. I can create it and someone can come and watch it right away with no delay, with no latency, like super instant. Everything is great. But once we introduce the broadcast and the player on the same page, for example, on the case that the user opens their camera doing a private or an exclusive session, it takes a little bit for the host to show the user's picture. But once the user's picture shows up correctly, there's no delay or latency. So there's something, I think it's related to the latest version of the SDK that allowed us to do the broadcast and player at the same time. But I have a feeling that there's some type of conflict on the SDK when using those. Maybe I should try to raise this issue. I should try to raise awareness regarding this to Livepeer devs, because I think it's something related to the SDK when using the broadcast and player at the same time.
So what you're
However,
saying? Sorry, keep going.
no, there's no latency or lag per se, but sometimes when a user watches something, his device takes a little bit to get the image at first. So,
right, so just
it's
on
like
the initial load, there's like a delay.
Yes.
But
Yes.
once the image is caught up, or like once the connection has been established, then it's real time.
Yes, exactly. So we've been working on this, trying to fix it in our end, but I'll try to communicate directly with the Livepeer devs. Maybe they will have some helping hands regarding this.
Yeah, definitely.
And by image, are you referring to the video when it first begins?
Exactly. This.
How much latency are you getting? Is it like under a second or 2
No,
seconds?
around 20 seconds.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's significant.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like a start latency, right?
Exactly.
So, but that only happens on startup. But after the 20 seconds, it
It
loads
only
into
happens when there is already a live stream on a page. For example, you are a client watching a live stream. You go there, you click on the web page. There's no latency, there's no delay, there's nothing. However, when you open your camera, the host will see your image, but it will only show up around 10 to 20 seconds after you open it. Like, we get a black screen and then the image loads, and then there's no latency or delay or anything of the sort.
I don't think that's anything to do with the Livepeer network. I think that has something to do with their SDKs or something on it.
I'm pretty sure it's the SDK, because until February, it was not possible to instantiate the player and the broadcast on the same page, and then the new version allows it to happen. However, there's a little delay. It's from the February version of the SDK.
Okay. Yeah, I think we'll have to. I don't have anyone here from the team, from the studio team, but do you have something in place reaching out to them, to follow up with that issue?
Not right now. I think I'll open a ticket here on Discord.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And
Yeah, that's what we do. And I reach out to Suhail usually. Just kind of my point of contact for everything.
Right.
Chase. So Chase is the right person.
Pardon me?
Yeah. So I think I see a comment that Chase might be the right person to reach out to. We'll do that. Comment in the chat.
Yeah, we'll get you in touch with the right person. The community is pretty good at reaching out to the studio team, so we'll make sure that you guys get the support you need, because it sounds like you've got an interesting project, and We want to support you in it. So, with
Great,
that being
thanks.
yeah, no, it's awesome. With that being said, my last question was around, does this include crypto? You kind of mentioned that it's like kind of Web 2 and Web 3. Is crypto necessary for this type of, like a wallet connect with, or are you just using it to enable interesting new features as you go forward? Like what what
Yeah.
purpose does crypto have?
Yeah. Our philosophy is again, Web 2 embraced. So crypto is optional, and a lot of adult stars have been burned by the NFT mania last cycle, and they don't want to hear anything relating to crypto. They don't want to hear anything kind of relating to NFT. So I'm thinking you don't really need to have crypto on this platform. We can just use this like a Web3 enabled backbone for cost savings. But I'm also kind of thinking create the pool effect, right? Like if you do enable your wallet, which you don't have to, you can basically claim TZ tokens, right? So we want to make it optional. That's my, thinking so far on this. And plus, we're going to be another thing we didn't touch on is we don't want to go a traditional route of raising money through VC. We want to do IDO, initial DEX offering, or it's a version of initial token offering. So since we'll have the token, I think some form of Web3 integration still makes sense, but again, optionally.
I think that's a conservative and good approach. I think Web3 is, crypto in general is kind of it's new and it's exciting and it's revolutionary on how we're going to go forward, but it's still pretty early and people are pretty burnt out by the cycles. Still haven't gotten a hold of the cycles and how they affect us. So no, that's a good approach. Good. I'd like to open it up now to the community. Who has any questions they'd like to ask Eugene or the Fanteasy team in general?
I don't really have any questions. I know that the Fanteasy team was applying for the retroactive funding, and there was a whole discussion about who gets funding and who doesn't in that program. I think for this, it would be really cool to see a full proposal done up on the Treasury section of the Explorer with just an outline of everything you guys want to do and need to do to get this out to production. And then I think this is one of the few projects so far that would be awesome to have there, and everyone would be interested in looking at it and maybe allocating some funds to it.
Thank you. Yeah, so the question is, when can we kind of go ahead with the proposal, and how long should we keep this in a pre-proposal state, on the forum, and what else is missing in our proposal the community would want to, before we can move forward?
I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but like just personally for me, and I know some other orchestrators are on the same page. Just having like a detailed outline of what you guys need to do, whatever you are aware of that needs to get done, like just break it down in phases so we know what's like happening behind the scenes, and maybe being available once a quarter to do an update or something. Just details, right? Because like everything you've said is awesome, but it sounds like you're pretty far from production ready, right? There's a lot of technical hurdles and stuff that you're still working on, and a lot of concepts to explore. So having everything broken down in phases would be pretty great in the proposal instead of just like a summary.
Mm-hmm.
Have you gone to the Livepeer grants committee for proactive funding?
Yeah, but those are limited in amount, right? Those
yeah.
are
Yeah, it's usually like it's like
Yeah.
I think on average they're doing $15,000,
Yeah.
up to 40,000 for some certain things. I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Is that have you looked into that? Do you think this is just going to be insufficient for the scope of what you're doing? What are your thoughts around
I mean,
that?
it's a, pretty ambitious project, right? It could bring. From my perspective, obviously I'm biased, but I think it could absolutely catapult Livepeer to. I already spent 200,000 on this, right? I spent like 60K on the designs, and so I mean, I'll take anything. I'll take 30,000, any amount. I'm grateful for, but with a direct treasury proposal, like I'm right now, I'm asking for 11,000. That's a different scale, right? But if this gets voted down, I'll just, I'll go the video disruptor route. But I hope it doesn't get voted down. And yeah, if we need to, I would be happy to do an update once a quarter and break it down further into a more detailed plan.
Definitely. I'm just looking through the pre-proposal, and it sounds like the requesting of the funds and which is interesting because so the retroactive funding that Livepeer Innovators DAO, which is what I'm a part of, and a couple other members are, and I believe you applied for the retroactive funding. Unfortunately, it is for retroactive uses. So unless you're driving traffic, now the vote, we actually put forward a vote to do eligibility and these kinds of things. So I'm not saying that anything has come about yet for the retroactive funding, but it sounds like you're looking for proactive funding. You're looking for funding to hit milestones and to build this idea out, as it's currently not driving traffic. And so what's interesting is you have this pre-proposal for proactive funding, and it's for a larger amount, and by the sense of it, the community is interested in seeing this, or like. So I'm just trying to think of ways where we could try and support you in creating a new avenue for this type of funding, and whether that's going directly to the treasury, I'm not quite sure, because the treasury, do we want proactive proposals all jamming up the treasury with votes? Are we going to get voter fatigue? Or is that a fine way to do it? We just need to standardize the process. And so maybe there's a way we could, as a community, come together with a formal standardization of what it takes to do a large proactive funding model from a treasury, and how that would look, so that we can ensure it'll pass and the funds get used properly.
Yeah,
So,
I've been following all these conversations, and yes, we did apply to retroactive funding, but in this particular case, it's kind of a hybrid, right? So I have already, spent a pretty large sum developing this platform. So it's retroactive in that sense. And we don't drive a lot of traffic, but we do drive some traffic, right? We're using the SDK, where we are testing things. We are spreading awareness, about Livepeer, with all of these conversations of, raising money, and other adult platforms as well. So I think we're doing, honestly, a lot for Livepeer in that sense, but it doesn't, exactly fit, and I understand this, into retroactive funding. This is where it's kind of like a great territory,
yeah, because what I'm seeing here is 15,000 is 15,000 for the grants committee. Yeah, that's great, but it doesn't really move the needle for the ambition of this project, right? And it doesn't really fit into the retroactive funding because it's not already built out, generating significant traffic. You're kind of in between, and the question is, I think, for the community, we should continue this conversation, is how do we fit that type of project into the community? How do we fit large, ambitious projects that already have hundreds of $1,000s invested and we propel them forward in their development with a greater assurance of success, and not just like a Sybil attack of people just spamming the treasury for money with lies, right? Because that's another issue with on-chain treasuries is we have to have a lot of confidence in putting forward votes that will actually pass. And so I just don't know if there's an avenue for this yet, but it doesn't mean we can't make one as a community if we should continue this conversation, and if people have recommendations, either speak up now or if you want to put them in chat on how we could help the team move forward. I could see some people putting the comments in chat, but either way, I think we'll continue this conversation in the rooms, and good job with your pre-proposal. It's good to get some feedback so that we could figure out how we're going to go forward with it.
For us, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I would like to. I'll obviously keep working on a proposal. We'd like to get, but before I submit it for voting, I'd like to get a good sense of what community feels about it, right? If I feel like it's going to be voted down, there's really no point for us to do this. I think we're would be one of the first projects doing it, right? Going directly to Treasury. So there's a lot of unknowns in that sense. So I don't know what would be the right avenue for me to get that feedback of whether or not we should go forward with a Treasury proposal. This was recommended, by the way, I think this was originally recommended. I cannot navigare necesse. You're here, right?
No, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I see he's in the chat.
Oh, there you go. Oh, I see. Yes,
yeah.
He's one of the orchestrators on the network.
Yeah,
definitely. Well, and to be honest, if you want feedback, I mean, these water cooler chats and in chat in Discord is going to be kind of your best chance of getting feedback, because the way the network works is orchestrators. There's 100 orchestrators, and we put forward our votes, and we represent all of our delegators, and their voting power, right? So if a delegator disagrees with the orchestrator, they can take their voting power and vote themselves to disagree and make whatever vote they want. But by default, the orchestrators are voting on behalf of their delegate. So the orchestrators are pretty much the people in this chat. You're talking to a good majority of them. So you're in the right place. I just think that it's just, as a community, we haven't figured out kind of, so the community grants node has been around for a very long time, and they've been in charge of doing all proactive funding. And, it's tough for us to, we don't want to step on any toes, right? Like, they've done a good job. They've been good stewards of proactive funding. They have a good program. They've done hundreds of proactive funding rounds. They have a committee. And so for us to go in and say, hey, we're going to do our own proactive funding, and this is how we're going to do it, right? We have to be careful that we're not creating multiple competing avenues and this type of things. And maybe the way to do this is to go to the Livepeer grants program, maybe us as a community, or I'll reach out to maybe Shan, who's on the committee, and just like ask them what the reason for the $15,000 limit is. Like, why have a $15,000 limit? Why not just whatever is reasonable, right? I'm sure they have a good reason for it, but maybe the easiest route is just to actually just us as a community get together and go, let's add a 0 onto that because this is a worthy project, right? So that, you know, or maybe that's their mandate and that's what they want to stick with, in which case, hey, maybe we need to do a treasury vote and get the orchestrators on board with what's happening, and we'll vote it through. You know, the treasury is very new. It's only been live for a few months, and we're still learning about the tolerance it has to what it wants to fund, how often it wants to vote, you know, all these types of things. So it really is open. You know, if you have a good proposal and you put it forward, you know, I can't stop you. It's a treasury vote. No orchestrator, not me, not anyone can stop you from putting forward a treasury proposal for all the funds, right? So
Yeah,
that's what's interesting.
yeah,
about it.
Yeah, I understand. And from my perspective, you know, I want to be able. There's a lot of balls in the air. You know, I want to be able to kind of move fast. This money matters right now. I think by the end of the year, I'll be in a good position. I will be already funded. This money matters like right now, as we're, you know, building it, hiring additional developers, testers, getting some help. Like I cannot like spend months and months discussing it with like this grant, that grant, and you know, back and forth. Like I have to basically, you know, move pretty fast. And even if it does gets voted down, then I'll just basically kind of come up with a different plan for this, right? So I control what I control, and what I have no control over, it's okay.
Are you interested in raising capital? Like, are you interested in giving away equity in order to raise the capital for it, or are you looking just for a grant?
Oh yeah, definitely. So we, as far as like raising money, we're gonna do IDO, initial DEX offering, but the problem with this. Oh, and the one thing I didn't talk about it. My co-founder, his name is Arben Kane. He specializes in this thing. He's like he has 2 million followers on Instagram. He flies all around the world. Once every 2 months, he goes to New York, Miami, Dubai, South Korea, Tokyo. So he is working. Basically, his responsibility is marketing and raising money, and we want to do it in such a way that we don't give up any equity to traditional VCs. So that's why we're going this kind of decentralized raising money route. But it just takes a long time, and I have to keep going like right now, right? Because it's such a massive platform. There's so much to do. Like I said, I have 400 pages to build in Figma. Everything has to be responsive, right? It needs to work on your iPad, it needs to work on the desktop, on the mobile phone. So there's just, and I'm basically funding everything myself with a little bit of help from Arben. So this money matters now. I don't want to like spend another 2 years building this platform. We want to go. We want to build everything this year and go into production, you know, as soon as possible. That's the goal.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments for Eugene? I see in the chat, Osmond said, I'd recommend going ahead with the main proposal with the format that Ben had mentioned. Ben, what was the format that you had mentioned?
It was just a clear outline of every single phase, steps, milestones, just clearly put into a proposal so everyone can see what is needed to go forward with everything, because it is a pretty big ask of funds.
Right. Yeah, no, I think go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the other part is, you know, you got to demonstrate your product or project provides value. I mean, I've had a SPE pass, and again, there's a lot of scrutiny. A lot of people ask a lot of questions, but You would hope so, based on the fact of the matter is the funding is to go towards projects that are going to generate demand on the network. Now, again, some of them are, like Doug called them, shots on goals, where they may not pass, or if they do pass, they may not, provide the value that you would expect. But if people keep building and we keep incentivizing those builders to build, and there's value to add, you're going to get a pass proposal. So, and again, being one of the people that submitted the Livepeer Cloud SPE treasury proposal, it's hard because, again, you're looking from, a point in time where you're trying to project the future, what's going to happen in terms of demand. But you have goals, you set the goals, make it clear. And if the value is there, and orchestrators are going to get behind it, because we want to see projects succeed. The money's here for that, but it's got to be clear what your plan is and what the potential demand generation looks like. And I think that's all you can do. There's no guarantee button. If people don't resonate with the plan and the idea, then it's not going to pass, no matter what how you write it. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and one of the things is actually that's very positive is every time I talk about our project, how much excitement it generates. When I worked with the design shop, they have like 6 different teams, and they were like basically fighting with each other to work on Fanteasy. So this naturally just attracts a lot of, and even like looking at the comments now on the forum, I'm really pleased. I feel like it's from what it looks like to me, it might get passed. Obviously, I'll do my best to put as much detail as I can. Some of the details, unfortunately, I cannot share. Like the question on tokenomics. That's up in the air right now, and it's being actively discussed because we're working with a partner that will help us out with initial DEX offering, and there's a lot of like private details on how we're gonna go about this. But one thing I would say is that we want to allocate a certain amount of our tokens to Livepeer community, as well. And maybe we will have another conversation on how to do this best when time comes.
I think all of those details are probably your business details that aren't really important, right? I think the important factor is, what is it that you guys plan to do that's going to increase the demand for the network? Because Livepeer is building on, we want builders to build projects that are going to generate demand, because we're the supply side of that. We provide the GPUs for the network as orchestrators. So we're here wanting to see more demand come in outside of Livepeer Studio, or even through Livepeer Studio. As long as it's coming in, orchestrators are the ones benefiting, right? We're doing the work and we're getting paid. So, if your project's going to generate demand, and I focus on all the ways in which your project will bring demand to the network, and I think, that in itself is going to be plenty. Like, if you got secret sauce in terms of how your operation works, I don't think that matters if if there's not a clear demonstration of demand for transcoding services.
Just in your proposal, just do an airdrop to all delegated token holders of LPT. You do a snapshot, and if the proposal goes through, you'll airdrop your Fanteasy tokens to all delegated LPT holders, because they're the ones actively voting for you, right? So
that's bribing. That's bribing.
Oh yeah, but like, welcome to crypto. Like, it's not bribing if it's open public, and like, hey, the treasury fund, the treasury funds go to someone who's going to return the holders of LPT tokens equity in the project. Like, okay, I don't see, it's not behind the scenes. If it's an upfront contract, and that gets your vote approved, and maybe it's worth considering. Although maybe I'm setting a bad precedent. So,
Mike, but on your point, Mike, and demand, this is like pure demand, right? So everything about our platform is built around generating demand for Livepeer. If we get to
Yeah,
a
and again,
level,
I think that's great. I personally think that this is a good opportunity to generate a good amount of demand. I think your market is right for that stuff. Absolutely. It's how do you plan to execute to get there is going to be the, what is your outcomes? What are the expected outcomes? I think that'll go a long way to getting your proposal passed.
which is that plan that we're discussing, right? It's basically business
Yeah,
plan.
we kind of need to just like see that you're confident in your ability to like execute and you know what you need to do to get it out to production. Because yeah, I think everyone thinks it will drive demand if it's out there and it's online and people are using it. But like Mike said, it's how do you get there?
Yeah,
Got it.
and it's no secret that the adult industry is probably like a good match for this type of network. Like, it's it would probably drive a lot of demand, and the adult industry is massive. So if we can attract that type of that type of platform to us, like, I think the orchestrators are going to be happy and proud to be just doing lots of work and using the resources and generating demand on the network. If you can, show that and clearly outline how it's going to happen, then yeah. So, any last comments or you'd like to make, Eugene, before we move on? Okay, no worries. What I would like to do is just invite you to come back the next water cooler chat, kind of stick around in the community, but also, I'll reach out to you and see what I can do for the grants committee on their side of things, and then also, if you want to start sharing kind of ideas on how you'd like to write up an official proposal for the Treasury, be an option. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're building, and I'm very, very excited and optimistic about your project.
Yeah, thank you very much. May I be reaching out to you directly
Sure.
as well?
We'll keep in touch. Yeah, why not?
Okay, great. Nice to meet you guys. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, let's continue on. We got a couple more topics. Let's talk about Forkunzman's topic, which is the feedback on the community RPC and load balancer. Forkunzman, can you tell us what you've been working on and what you've, what you're looking to get some feedback?
Yeah, so I mean, well, to start, in anticipation of the vote of the LID grant, I wanted to make sure I got the community node service back up and running out there. People get a chance to use it and understand it. It's real. It's here. It works. Regardless of whether or not that grant goes through, I'm gonna keep going, and would likely submit to the Treasury directly if it doesn't. But like, I want to help the community, and would like to see that service succeed. So I'm here to make sure it works well for everybody, and any feedback that the community has is greatly appreciated. Suggestions for feature improvements too. Like, I know I've already gotten questions about dashboarding or metrics reporting, trying to address that. So we'll start there with that, with the community node. And then, there was a lot of questions going around about how to get an effective, redundant solution for like RPC endpoints for Livepeer users. Like, any service can go down, right? Even my own. So how do we mitigate the risk of that when we're actively running Livepeer and transcoding and can't afford to lose connectivity? So I actually took the parts of the stack that I've built for the community node, and I kind of stripped it down to make it more simple, and posted the RPC balancer tool out there on GitHub. Tried to make it as easy to use as possible. Right? You should just be able to put in as many different Arbitrum endpoints, or you could use it for L1, any RPC provider, right? Just to make it simple for people to, use maybe a service you pay for. Maybe it's the free service provided by Infura, Alchemy, whatever, the community node. We should feel confident stacking a number of different endpoints that we know at least one of them is going to work. And then none of us have a risk of downtime in case one fails. So I think a few people have started using it. I know I've set it up on a couple of my nodes too, and it's been working for me. Seems like there's been a couple hiccups with others trying to get it working though. So just want to hear feedback there, see if I can answer any questions about it or improve the docs, so on and so forth. So with that, I don't want to do any of the talking. I want to hear from everyone else.
Have you done any tests with the? Oh, sorry, Ty.
No, you go. You go.
Thought you were gonna come in there.
No, you go.
Okay, yeah, just a quick question. Have you done any tests of an RPC actually failing yet? Because I do have it running in Singapore, but I don't think anything's failed yet, so I don't know if the failover works smoothly.
So I've done some limited testing locally, like set it up on my own nodes here, and then shut off the port so it can't get to it to kind of like try and simulate it failing. And it did work as expected. It's kind of hard because I can't force, all those public RPCs out there. I can't really force them to fail. I'm not really sure all the different types of error messages that make it generated from failure of those, but the two key ones are, hey, is the service returning anything other than a 200 status code when you make a request to it? And also looking at 429 rate limit codes as well, because those are pretty standard across any of the free service ones. So if a rate limit happens, you should see specific logging to let you know that it failed because of rate limiting.
Awesome. Yeah, I've been using it now for, I think, since you launched it or a day after. I think it's pretty freaking awesome. I think a lot of orchestrators have been asking for this exact service for a while. And some were using Proxy D or Cloudflare workers, but this is pretty sweet.
So,
gonna
is this
keep trying to improve it?
Is the load balancer a new product you built? Like, is that something you just recently built?
Yeah, it's just an open source tool. I posted a link to the GitHub repo somewhere in the orchestrator channel. But head out to the repo. There's instructions on how to download it or build it locally, use Docker, whatever, to get it running in your own stack.
Yeah, that's an amazing ability. That's an amazing item to increase our reliability. That's really good. And so where could we download this? And do you have the docs ready for us to spin it up?
Yes. I'm not at my laptop right now, so I can't go grab the link. But if you search RPC-balancer in I think the orchestrator channel, you should see where I've posted that. Maybe the general channel.
Somebody's posted it. The GitHub here. Like, there we go. Cool. RPC balancer looks good. Amazing.
And I know Frank has already posted a couple issues in the GitHub repo that I'm addressing as I see them come in. So everyone, please, contribute. If you want to make changes, throw it up in a pull request. We'll take a look at it. And I want to promote community development here too. It is all open source. So
does it? So you just have to spin up one balancer, and then you can point all your nodes to it. Is that kind of how it would work?
So right now, my suggestion is not to do it that way because there's no security mechanisms built in. So, which is something I do hope to address here in the near future, but it's better if you run one instance locally on the same server that you're running your node, just so that you don't have to open up or expose any ports externally. Because if you expose the port, there's nothing stopping anybody from hitting your endpoint.
Yeah, poking at the endpoint.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not going to be too difficult to implement some kind of authentication mechanism. I'm probably going to do very similar to how the community node works, right? It'll be an authenticated like URL endpoint where you'll be able to set like a password or a strong key that you can append to the end of your endpoint, like local endpoint URL, and then that would allow you to at least open it up, and then only your requests will get authenticated.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. And then the community ARB node is up and running as well. Is that a subscription based? Do you have to pay for it? How does that work?
No, it's right now it's free for all active Livepeer community participants. You just have to authenticate yourself to my. I have like a little web service for user administration. So if you connect, use Livepeer, and that wallet has to be associated with an active.
Or Koonsman, I think you're going under a
You
bridge.
just sign a message with your wallet, and it will it'll show you your endpoint.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. I like it a lot. I really appreciate the effort you've been putting on it, and great work on this, says John. Yeah, good work. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, let's keep going on. Mike, you had your topic around Hunter's update and quality improvements. Do you want to give us an update on what he had mentioned and what the implications might be?
Well, I think the big thing was they're coming out with a new release in this week, and it's related to some blockers they had with this new client onboarding. You can read about his comment in the Discord, but basically, being able to get nodes, orchestrator nodes, updated to the latest version and staying current is one of those challenges that that Studio faces. If orcs are running older versions, they may not have the proper quality measures in place. So he just wanted to make sure that he informed the community that if they put something into the code, like a version number check to say if you're not at least at a certain version, that Studio won't select you for work. So just wanted to make sure every orc heard about that and make sure that they're keeping their orchestrators up to date, and shouldn't be a problem, but just wanted to raise awareness. That's all.
Yeah, I think Hunter did reach out and he asked the pool operators, how quickly we get update and stuff. Sounds like it's going to be pretty rapid update. So I think it just comes down to, but then again, like I don't think pools are doing any more work than any of the other orchestrators with their capacity. So I think in general, even if the pools were latent to it, I think the rest of the network would be pretty responsive in getting the update out.
Yeah, I don't think Studio is the concern. I think they're going to take care of the measures to make sure that they keep this client happy and on board, right? I think it's if orchestrators, let their environment slip, that could just be that they don't get to participate anymore. And, everyone's definitely wants to see streams coming into their node.
That's right. No, I think this is kind of is par for the course when it comes to being a service provider, providing a product that yeah, we need to coordinate and make sure we give the best we can.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's all. I mean, if anyone had any questions, I figured we'd chop it up, but if not, that at least you're warned.
Yeah. Anyone else have any questions on that? Right on. I'd like to move on to another topic, which is the AI availability of models. So I've been kind of just doing some extra work on Let's Generate.ai, and kind of improving. I did fix that issue with the frames per second thing. It was totally working just fine from the gateway node. It was how I configured the request from my service. So I did get it up to 25 frames per second for a 1 second video, which is awesome. But now it just comes down to like, okay, I got that running, but then I went back to use text to image, and it looks like most people left the XDXL Lightning, the ByteDance model, or the RealViz model that the other team is using. And so all of a sudden I requesting the ByteDance model, and I'm not getting any results. And so I thought, okay, maybe I have to do a failover where it now uses, checks RealViz models for, to see how many of those are active, and might use one of those. So I'm just kind of curious, like, I think someone was talking about a script where we could see how many models or how much availability there is on the network for each model, and then what is a good kind of general rule for handling front ends when the particular model is unavailable. Are we going to just pass that on to the user, or should we be swapping between models so that we can quickly get what we want? Like, what are some ideas around that?
So yeah, I can talk
I'm just gonna
about.
quickly jump in.
Oh, you can jump in first about the
Go ahead,
front end.
Rick. I was gonna say, just a minute. No, I was actually, I was gonna say, I can't speak to the front end, but about 20 minutes ago, it looks like Quan posted that they're soon we switch back to ByteDance. So you may not have that problem anymore for Titan, just as far as ByteDance goes, but not a long-term solution.
Oh, that's too funny, because I switched the default to the RealViz, so now everyone's going back to ByteDance.
Yeah, this is one of the
I brought it up. I
downsides.
just thought it was kind of funny.
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah,
you said that you had 1 minute videos at 25 frames per second?
No, sorry, 1 second videos.
1 second videos. Okay. I would definitely recommend just to go down to 24 frames per second until you can get it to 30 or 60. Otherwise, it might, it not might, but it will affect the way that the video looks when it's being played back.
Oh, interesting. I will swap it down to 24. There we go. Yeah, it's nice having 24 frames per second. I think outcome tends to be.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a downside still from this subnet that we're in the early stage. We don't have any coordination apart from messages currently about which models to load. But we are working hard on giving the visibility first to the broadcaster. So the first implementation that has already been implemented by Brett, and I am looking at it right now today and tomorrow, is to have a client, extra client option where the gateway can request which models are run by which orchestrators at the current time. So after that, we want to make that information also available for orchestrators, so they know what other people are running, and for DApps on like a simple web app.
And so also, I want so in that sense, then there's really no one running these models in the cold kind of selection, where it sounds like nobody's running like all 5 different, or like whatever, 4 different, text to image models in not warm loaded. So because otherwise it would dynamically load and be able to handle the request, correct, as of today, right?
Yeah, so that's a really good point. I just opened another issue about it, I think, yesterday. We have some issues with the cold loading. It works, but sometimes it gives a capacity timeout. It's because there are some timeouts in the code base that are too short. And we are currently looking at fixing that as well. So if that's fixed, then because there are people that are having models called. I know that Pon has some models called there. I saw it this morning when I was debugging. But they currently they don't get used up all the time. So for example, my cold model worked some days ago, but then again, when I requested it from Pon, it got the timeout error. So we have that fixed to fix that first before you can really utilize this cold model feature. And after that, it's a little bit of the downside of this cold model loading. That's because why we have a really big item in that in the next SPE phase, is that it's really slow. So currently, if you try to load the ByteDance model, I think it's 10 seconds for loading it on the GPU, at least on my system. If you have the real fish, for some reason, it's 5 seconds, so it's a little bit faster, but it depends on the model. So you will get your request a lot later currently if we don't optimize this loading as well.
Is there a way we could do something where, maybe the end user or the platform doesn't care about which model, and they could say, hey, listen, I just want to use the text to image pipeline. I have no preference in model. Just I want it back. Is that an idea?
Yeah, it's an idea. I was just already thinking how easy or hard it is to implement on the code base, but it could be implemented if you don't care about the model, but you will get a lot of different results.
Yeah.
Rick, you mentioned that you're putting some functionality into the gateways to look up, which models are loaded so that the apps can choose. Is that going to be implemented like an API, like text to image and image to image are endpoints now? Would that just be another endpoint, or is that something only the broadcaster or the gateway rather can look at locally? Is there something that exposes that to the dApp builders?
No, so currently it's only something that the gateway can look up locally. The next stage that we're gonna do, I try to, how do you call it? To get it out of the Go Livepeer code and see if I can get this information, for example, in like a simple server script that is running online, and provide this information in real time for people to use.
Okay, just curious.
So the first goal is here to just give gateways a sense of what is being used, and also then give it there. So we could add an endpoint. I had a discussion with John about it, but I'm not sure if we can have it on the same port. We can do that, but there's some technical things we have to look at then. So
no, that's clear. Thank you.
yeah, no problem. So yeah, currently it's a little bit hard because the two issues have to be fixed. So the cold model loading, then we can take a longer time, and the visibility in what models are currently on the network. So I could see also an endpoint where you could request it from a gateway, but then so that will be then a free endpoint. But I think maybe just a website where that shows it is enough for the current state.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that answers my question. Great. Any other topics or comments on the AI initiative? Okay. There we go. I think we've gone through all the topics now. Any last comments or questions before we end the chat? All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming to today's Water Cooler Chat, making Livepeer the open and decentralized video infrastructure for the world. Thanks again for coming, and we'll see you all next week. Cheers.